Let's talk about the biggest needs for every team in the AFC North heading into free agency. For the Cincinnati Bengals, wide receiver definitely is one of your most pressing issues with free agency around the corner. Yes, you franchise T. Higgins, but we don't know what his future is in Cincy. Are you going to find a way to give him a long-term extension, or are you going to just tag and trade him somewhere elsewhere and try to get some value where maybe you trade up in the draft so you can draft the Marvin Harrison Jr., or maybe you go and get Brock Bowers? But not only do you need to find a replacement for T. Higgins if you do get rid of him, but you still, even if you re-sign T. Higgins, still need a third wide receiver because Tyler Boyd is set to hit free agency. He's starting to decline a little bit. He's hitting that age where you start to see good players like him fall off in their game. And you're going to need to find a third option to put in the slot. Right tackle has been a huge concern for you ever since you first drafted Joe Burrow. Now, you thought that you had right tackle figured out when you signed La'el Collins, but he was a massive whiff. Left tackle is pretty good with Orlando Brown. Even though he isn't as good as what some people may think, he still is one of the better left tackles in the league. Offensive guard, you could get better there, but, it's not one of those things that you should overly stress out about. You got to get right tackle right. Because if you can get right tackle right, then your offensive line could possibly be a top 10 unit next year. Now, how are you going to address right tackle? Probably the draft or either free agency. So if you can trade T. Higgins and get another first-round pick for him, maybe you can get a guy like, maybe trade up for a guy like Joe Alt or Lou Fasciano if you just want to address receiver in free agency. There's a multitude of ways they can address offensive tackle. But right tackle, definitely, if they can figure that out, that offensive line could be really good with the healthy Joe Burrow. And lastly, defensive tackle. DJ Reader is set to be a free agent. He's been a big part of their run defense over the last couple of years. And last year, their run defense was the worst it's ever been under Lou Anarumo. They were 26. They're going to have to find a way to improve that. And it's going to start off with, either you bring back DJ Reader, or even if you do, you're going to have to get some more depth pieces behind them. Biggest needs for the Pittsburgh Steelers. Definitely quarterback. Kenny Pickett is not it. Don't know how many times I got to say it. There's nothing special about Kenny Pickett, bruh. Like, yeah, he may play better in the fourth quarter at times in certain games, but you got to ask yourself, if you're Mike Tomlin or the general manager of the Steelers, are we going to be able to make it to a Super Bowl with Kenny Pickett? Is Kenny Pickett going to be good enough to go toe-to-toe with Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow? Because you do know that the majority of the NFL's best quarterbacks are in the AFC. And I, for the life of me, don't understand why people think you can just win with anything at quarterback. It's not 2010 anymore. It's not the 1990s or the early 2000s when you can just throw a scrub at quarterback, and as long as you got a good team around them, you can still make it to a Super Bowl. If you don't have a superstar level quarterback, or at least a quarterback that can excel with a good team around them, you're not going anywhere in the playoffs. And Kenny Pickett, he doesn't have the potential of being the guy who can win you a Super Bowl, because he's never going to be able to outduel the Mahomeses or the Lamars of the world in the postseason when it matters. Okay, like at best he gives you top 12 quarterback play, which may be good to get you to the AFC Championship occasionally. But when you're going up against Patrick Mahomes, you got to be an all-timer. You got to be great. And not just anybody is going to take down Mahomes in the playoffs, especially not old Kenny Pickett. So you need to go out and find you a solution to the quarterback issue that you've had for the last couple of years since Big Ben hung up the cleats. And no, Russell Wilson ain't the answer neither. You need to go out, either draft a young quarterback or try to find a bridge quarterback to bring in to compete with Kenny Pickett, at least for a season, that can keep you afloat. And then maybe you try to position yourself where you can trade up and get Shedeur Sanders next year if you're not trying to lose, if you're Mike Tomlin, because this is a big year for you. You know, the ownership said that they want to win in the playoffs again. And a lot of the fan base has been feeling that same way for a while. And if Mike Tomlin wants to remain in Pittsburgh for the rest of his coaching career, he needs to get the quarterback situation situated. And Kenny Pickett ain't that. Offensive tackle. Don't know where they're going to play Broderick Jones. On some depth chart websites, he's listed as a right tackle. Some he's listed as a left tackle. But you still need to find a way to partner Broderick Jones up with somebody at that other tackle spot, wherever he's going to line up at. Now, in the draft, there are a lot of great first-round caliber offensive tackles. You're picking up 20, so you definitely are in position to get one of them. And then, you know, if you don't want to take that route, there are going to be a couple of decent ones available in free agency. If you're putting Broderick Jones at left tackle and you're looking for a right tackle, it's a lot easier to find a good right tackle than it is to find a good left tackle. Cornerback, you also could argue for linebacker being up here, but they need them both. But they need cornerback more because other than Joey Porter Jr., there was nobody in the secondary who you could depend on. And I don't even know how this defense was as good as what they were at times. Well, TJ Watt and how good the pass rush was, but if the pass rush got neutralized, it was grits cheese for the Steelers defense, man. It's like the secondary couldn't stop nobody, the linebackers couldn't stop nobody. It's like, what could you do? You feel me? It's like you had old man Patrick Peterson out there, you know, like you got James Pierre, who is he's a quality backup. You know, he comes from FAU. Shout out to the Owls. You know, always got to support my Owl brethren. But we need some help at corner, some big help at corner. So, biggest needs for the Pittsburgh Steelers, quarterback. My guy, TFT_guy in the comment section says Purdy is a prime example of throw any scrub on a great team. And Brock Purdy's not a scrub. Brock Purdy's better than Dak Prescott and a lot of other quarterbacks. We need to give Brock Purdy a little bit more respect. I would take Brock Purdy over a heartbeat over Kenny Pickett or Mason Rudolph. The Cleveland Browns, what are their biggest team needs? Well, you need to get another pass rusher to pair alongside of Myles Garrett because the Darius Smith is going to hit the open market. And when it comes to your cap situation, you got a little bit of money, but maybe not enough to retain a guy like Zadarius Smith if he ends up having a competitive market and you get into somewhat of a bidding war for him. And you also need more depth at edge rusher and on the interior of your defensive line because you have several depth departures that are going to be out of the door. And not only that, but you could potentially improve your defensive line if you could find a good interior D tackle that's really good at getting after the quarterback. Now, he doesn't have to be Aaron Donald or anything like that, but if you can find you a defensive tackle that can give you 5, maybe 6 sacks from that position, that could really push the pocket and make things hard on opposing quarterbacks when they pass, that would be a plus for you. And also, it wouldn't. Does it piss you off how much you pay for your monthly phone bill? Why are you getting frustrated when our partner Mint Mobile has plans as low as $15 a month that give you unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network? Stop getting frustrated with how much you spend on your monthly phone bill and go to trymintmobile.com/JT Sports and description and pin comment down below to get access to premium wireless for only $15 a month. That's only $15 a month. Switching to Mint is easy. It only takes 15 minutes to do. If you're pissed off with how much you pay for your monthly phone bill, switch to Mint Mobile today and go to trymintmobile.com/JT Sports in the description and pin comment down below to get premium wireless for only $15 a month. Stop getting upset with how much you spend on your monthly phone bill and switch to Mint Mobile today. It hurts you finding a great defensive tackle anyway because when you have that capable with a Myles Garrett, do you not know how unstoppable your D-line could be? Not just getting after the quarterback, but stopping the run also. So, edge rusher, D tackle, 2 huge needs for the Cleveland Browns. Linebacker, Anthony Walker, Sione Takitaki are free agents, and neither one of those guys are worth bringing back. You definitely can find some more serviceable starters than those two, even though they weren't terrible. It's just, if you can do better, you do better. You can find a pretty good linebacker in the draft. Not a lot of people are talking about this linebacker class. I think the linebackers that we got, like Tommy Eichenberg out of Ohio State, would be a very good fit for the defense that Jim Schwartz likes to run. So there are tons of really good linebackers in the draft that the Browns could get. You also could sign a guy like Devin White in free agency. He also would be a perfect fit in Jim Schwartz defense, and you won't have to pay that much for him because he's going to be looking to get a big deal, so you could give him a 1-year prove-it deal. So these are the 3 biggest needs for the Browns. Lastly, we got the Baltimore Ravens. It took me a while to do this one because they're one of the most complete teams in the NFL. There's not any position that you can look at and say, oh yeah, like that's a glaring issue outside of edge rusher, because you are losing Jadeveon Clowney and Kyle Van Noy to free agency. They're older. If you can get a younger, more talented guy than those, then there's no reason to bring them back. And plus, it's like you got Odafe Owe, David Ojabo, young players who you had a lot of faith in when you first drafted them, and they haven't really developed how you would hope. Or are you going to give them another year to try to figure it out and give them more reps, or are you just going to try and bring in some more competition and just try to improve that position overall and don't try to gamble on maybe you can hit on David Ojabo or Odafe Owe figuring out? So you could go free agency route in the draft. There's a lot of talented pass rushers in this draft. It's like, if you need offensive tackles or pass rushers, this is the perfect draft for that. Cornerback. Cornerback isn't a pressing issue for Baltimore, but it definitely is a position that they definitely could sharpen up a little bit more. You know, like, they got Brandon Stevens. Like, he's pretty solid, but you could get another slot corner depending on, you know, what you want to do with Geno Stone. Are you going to bring him back, or are you going to let him hit the open market? What are you going to do with him? And then they have some younger guys like Jalen Armour Davis, who they drafted out of Bama, but those are middle round picks that you're banking on them developing and being able to put that athleticism with some good play on the field. But most of the times when you're banking on those athletic mid-round corners to hit, they're more hit or miss. So it probably would make a lot of sense for Baltimore to try to find another quality corner. They don't need like an elite corner, but just somebody who could be a solid backup if a guy goes down, or he could be a decent slot corner. And then running back. I didn't know that J.K. Dobbins, Gus Edwards, and Dalvin Cook were all free agents. And there's no reason to bring any of them back when you're going to have the opportunity to pick any of the top running backs available in the open market. You could get Josh Jacobs, Saquon Barkley potentially, Derrick Henry, who reportedly you attempted to trade for at the trade deadline this year. So the Baltimore Ravens, with the backfield of Lamar, Saquon, or Josh Jacobs, or Derrick Henry, that's scary. So these are my 3 biggest team needs for every AFC North team. Comment some team needs of any of these teams that I might have missed, or, you know, some other teams that you guys want me to do, some other divisions you guys want me to break down and do team needs for.